Okay, so we're going to go to Photoshop now. If you already have a file that you've started, you can carry on with that if it's working. Otherwise, try this from the beginning, particularly if you have finished and you think you know how to do it. Go through this tutorial again. It shall only take you 5 to 10 minutes and you'll really know it. If you're struggling in class, please go through this carefully. It may take you half an hour to go through it once or several times till you get it right. Okay. I'm going to open up a new file from the beginning. Remember, it's 1280 pixels by 720. Okay, I'm going to call this perspective, and it's lesson 2, so I'm just going to call it 02. And here it is. Now, I've got my grid showing already. If you're not sure how to get the grid, remember, go to the View menu. Here's all your menus along the top. Today we're just going to look at the Edit, the menu where we can stroke, the Layer menu, and the View menu. I'm going to go to where it says Show Grid, okay, and turn that on. Make sure it's checked. I'm also going to turn on snapping here. I'll turn that on. You can see what that does. If I go to Snap and Snap to, and make sure you check Grid. That when you draw a line, use my line tool here, you can actually have it snapping to the grid, and it makes life a lot easier when you're trying to draw a line. Okay, so Control Z to undo that. Okay, it's my first layer. I'm going to call this grid to begin with. I'm going to draw, let's just open this out a little bit so you can see. I'm going to draw a line across, doesn't matter where. Straight across, hold down the Shift key. Now I've changed my foreground color down here to red. Okay, you simply click on where it's black and bring up red, press OK. I want this to be red. Now you can choose any point along this line to be your vanishing point. Choose somewhere in the middle or fairly close to the middle. It makes life a lot easier. I'm going to choose one that's actually on the grid here because it snaps to that, so it's easy. It's in the middle and it snaps to the edge there. So draw from your vanishing point down towards each of these vertical grid lines. Okay, this is going to be our measurement, and at the moment I don't actually know how big this grid is, but you could set this to exact measurements, so you could have a scale model floor. And remember, what we're trying to do here is actually to create the illusion of a floor, and it's going to be like a chessboard. Now, I've missed that one. If you make a mistake, Control Z. I didn't quite get it from the actual grid there. Try and be as accurate as you can when you do this. I recommend you use a mouse rather than the mouse pad or the trackpad, and all of those like that. Very, very simple. Okay. Now, what we're trying to achieve here is to create, like I said, to create a series of checkerboards. We could guess that by drawing some lines across here, but I want this to be an accurate, measurable space, and this should be mathematically accurate. To do that, I'm going to create a new layer. So go up to the Layer menu, go New Layer. You can use Shift Command N on a Mac, which is what I'm using, or you can use Shift Control N on your PCs. We're going to call this Square. It's always a good idea to name your layers as you bring them in. Makes life easier. And I'm going to go up the top here, the second tool down, which is my rectangular marquee tool. And right in the corner here, I start from this corner. I'm going to hold down Shift, and that will enable me to draw an accurate square in the corner of the canvas here. Okay, so that's made a selection. I need to then go up to the Edit menu at the top here, and I'm going to press Stroke. 3 pixels is a really good width for the stroke. The stroke just means a line will stroke around that selection that I've made. Press OK, and there's my line. Now to deselect, I can go up to the Selection menu and deselect, or you can see it's Command or Control D on a PC. Okay, so there's my square, there's my floor. Now the idea is that this square is, imagine this whole canvas here is a sheet of glass in front of you, and that square is actually standing up facing you. we want it to lie down flat on this ground. And if we can get it to lie down accurately, we can then draw all the other squares from that. Okay, that's the theory of it. Take this square, lay it down, and all the other squares we can then draw. To do that, we're going to use just a simple knowledge of mathematics. What we know about a square, which is, if we join up the corners of the square diagonally, it's a 45-degree line. Okay? Now, that 45-degree line here, notice where it's crossing this first perspective line that's coming from the vanishing point over here. Now that's very important. That is what we're going to use to draw our first square, because that 45-degree line will also go up to the corner of that square, and when I go across here I have myself a square lying down. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the visibility bit. I'm going to need it on for a moment. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to just use a keyboard shortcut for here, but you can go to the layer palette. We're just going to call this line. Okay, and I'm actually now, from this point here, I'm going to draw a line holding down the shift key. Make sure it snaps to that point there, straight across. Okay, now I didn't draw that very accurately, so I'm going to undo that and try it one more time. I want it to go right from here. There we go. Hold down shift, right the way across. Now it is really important to be accurate. And what we've made down in this corner is a square. All of these now are squares which are lying down on that floor. Okay? And just to show you, if I turn off that square that's in front, I'm going to take this line and I'm going to merge it together with the line below by pressing Command and E. Okay, make sure you got the top one selected first and press Command or Control E. Now if I take my paint bucket tool over here, I can just fill in alternate squares, and you can see I've got the beginning of my checkerboard. Okay, it's really easy. So let's go back. I'm going to make a new layer again. We'll call this just layer 1's fine. I'm going to take my line tool, and this time I'm going to go from the corner of my grid here through that point there. Remember, then that's a 45-degree line that's actually lying on the floor. It's not 45 degrees in reality here, but in terms of that square on the floor, it's 45 degrees. So I'm going to accurately take that up to that corner there, make sure it goes exactly through that point, and now where this line crosses each of these perspective lines, that's going to create my receding and diminishing squares on the floor. So let's do that now quite simply. I'm going to make another new layer for this. So Shift Control and N. Actually, probably useful if I rename this line. Okay, very simply. Double click on the actual layer itself over here, and you can make line. I'm going to draw a line just anywhere across here, holding down the Shift key. Boom. And I'm then going to use the Move tool, and I'm going to move it down till it crosses that next line. Now, if you can't do this accurately, so here it's not quite on it, I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keypad, on my keyboard, and just nudge it down till it exactly crosses the line. And then I'm going to simply duplicate that line and nudge it into place on all of these. So let's do that. So Command or Control J, and using my arrows, just nudge that into place. Very quickly up here. Whoop, too far. Go back. Let's bring it down to here. Okay. And then Command J or Control J, and just keep duplicating that line, that layer, and nudge it into place. Control J, nudge into place. Just keep going up and down on my keypad. And Control J or Command J. Some of you may work on PC, but you won't have the software, so you on your own home Mac, but you have the software, so on your laptop you can use that. And more here. And anyway, you could go on, but that's enough for me now. Now what I want to do here, I'm just going to turn off that diagonal line here. Okay, I should have renamed that diagonal, but we want to get it out of the way. Okay, because what I want to do is to merge all of these layers. So I'm going to click on the top layer, I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to merge all of those layers. Now be careful, don't merge the square or the diagonal layer. Okay, just all the lines and the grid that we made initially. And then hold down Control and E, and it will merge all those together. Then we can simply get our paint bucket and fill in the alternate squares, and we've got our beautiful chessboard grid. Very, very simply. Okay, now I'm not going to do all of these, but you can see how it goes. What I'd like you to do is to finish this, please. Now, as I said at the beginning, if you think you've got this, then just do it again just to make sure and practice. If you really struggled in class, then go through this and make sure you know how this works. This will be an element, it's a formative exercise which will be, you'll need to use this knowledge for your summative task. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.